The Mets win a dominant one tonight, a historic game in what felt like with this offense from the Mets as they outscored the Texas Rangers by a final score of 14-2. And in tonight's live show, both live here simulcasted on YouTube and on Bleacher Report app. Thank you guys all so much for being in here. Let me know your initial reactions in the live chat as we get this thing rolling here to this amazing victory. I'm going to break down everything that transpired inning by inning in this key matchup, along with getting into the highlights, the key numbers, and how the Mets have now found themselves looking like a team on the outside looking in for playoff hopes, any type of optimism just a week or so ago. Now this Mets team looks like a Mets team that may very well be in a wild card spot before we know it. Just 3 games below 500, just a game or so out of that wild card spot. The Mets have been on an absolute heater, and I'm so excited and pumped up to get into this one, everybody. Again, everybody first chiming in live on a replay. How you doing? I'm live here on the Bleacher Report app. For those that don't know me, I cover the Mets for a living at WardyNYM, the largest platform on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY, for consistent postgame coverage and all things Metropolitans. And I'm talking to plenty of you guys here and all my live viewers on YouTube. Make sure to hit that like, that follow button, and of course that subscribe button. Really does mean a lot, folks. But I will preface to my live viewers here on YouTube, if I do not interact with you right away, it is not personal. It's just because I'm live here on the Bleacher Report app as well. So to anyone here that are watching through the BR app, happy to have you guys. And as you all are going to see here, we're going to talk about a bit, of course, on the offense, because that was full-fledged what was driving the Mets in this matchup. From there, we're going to get into what we broke down inning by inning, of course, 1 through 9, including a plethora of hits, a plethora of highlights. You get a hit, you get a hit, you get a hit. My goodness, doing my best Oprah Winfrey impression out here. Then we're going to get into the pitching. We're going to get into the hitting as well. All the key takeaways from this matchup. But again, everybody, first chiming in live on a replay. Happy to have you all in here. And all I want to see to everybody first chiming in, especially to my YouTube viewers and of course my BR viewers, is spamming those W's in the live chat. That is what I want to see. Let's see. The gain is down. My apologies on that one, folks. If my mic is having a slight issue, it should be okay. But if it's not the best, I do sincerely apologize about that. Cherno with the $2 donation. Cherno says, bats are hot and Adam Ottavino has a 1-2-3 inning. What is life? What is life indeed? Appreciate the donation again. Thank you all so much, everybody. First chiming in, folks. Just give me one more second before we continue to roll on with the live show here to my roughly 200 viewers already here on YouTube and everybody that we have here in the BR app, folks. I don't want to waste much time. I want to get right into ripping what transpired in this ball game as we always do. But A. Lavelle with the $10 donation before we get there. A. Lavelle says, what's up, WardyNYM? Hope you and your family are doing well. This game we needed. Let's ride this wave of momentum. Keep your heads up and let's go Mets, baby. A. Lavelle, thank you for the donation. Long-time follower, great time follower here on the channel as always, and he couldn't be any more right there. This has been a tremendous run that the Mets have now found themselves on, and you just gotta hope that for the Mets case and for everybody else involved that this continues. Again, massive victory. So pumped up about it. Again, it felt like everyone and their mother recorded a hit in this ball game. And I know you're gonna say, Wardy, we're still 3 games below 500. We're not even in a wild card spot yet. Why are you getting too juiced up? I'm sorry that I have a level of optimism when the Mets again go out from scoring 11 runs yesterday, 14 today, put up 10 in a game against the Miami Marlins. The offense has been one of the best in Major League Baseball since June 1st. In all the National League, the Mets have been ranked 2nd and 3rd in every offensive statistic since June 1st. They are 11-4 over their past 15 games. Now add another victory over that past 15. Instead of 11-4, we're now 12-3. We're riding high. We're feeling good as Mets fans. And now let's let it rip with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Let's hear it, folks. And if you're watching this on Bleacher Report, you're probably like, what am I about to hear? We do a awesome post-game jingle that was custom made for me from some awesome friends that are big Mets fans, and Jordan and Greg. And I'll just let you listen, and then we can go further here into the show. Shout out to my guys, Greg and Jordan with the jingle, as always, everybody. But enough wasting time. You continue to spam those W's in the live chat. And for my viewers watching on replay, we're already halfway to 100 likes here in the show. Thank you guys all kindly for that. Really does mean a lot. I gotta tell you, I'm juiced up about the Metsies. We went live earlier on YouTube on the WardyNYM platform, and I told you guys why you need to start buying in on the New York Metropolitans here and why you should start believing. I'm not saying believe that they're going to win the World Series or anything like that, but what I am saying is that you should start believing and having a sliver of optimism, at least a sliver of hope that this Mets team can not only be entertaining this season, but hopefully get us where we want to be as an organization, just pushing for playoffs this season. What's the Mets record since the introduction of the postgame theme song? That's a good question, Giovanni. I honestly don't know. It's probably a losing record, but we only do play that song when the Mets win. So there is some balance, that there is some silver lining. That is that I never play that after the Metropolitans lose. Cameron with the $2 donation. That stadium, Texas, looks like a barn. Yes, and it was batting practice for the Mets in this one. How was it not, right? But again, appreciate the love. Thank you all so much, guys. But now let's break down this beautiful, and I truly mean chef's kiss of a ball game. The Metropolitans went into town, went in Arlington, and they absolutely curb stomped the Texas Rangers here. Now let's get into how exactly did they do that. Is this sustainable for the Mets? Can we expect more similar offense from the Mets this season? Will they take the series victory tomorrow? All great questions I have for you guys here watching live on a replay that I definitely want to see your reactions to. But all right, guys, we have David Pearson on the bump. He's matching up against John Gray, who entering tonight's start had himself right around, what was it, just over a 2-year rate this season for the Texas Rangers. Only gave up a couple long balls this season. That's before he played the New York Metropolitans, mind you, because once you play the Mets, things are either going to go great or terribly. There is no in between. Member of 30 months, Kish says, so when are we getting a grimace emoji? I think we have to make that, right? I've been having emoji issues with my memberships, but we got to get that fixed for obvious reasons. Kish, great member, happy to have you in here. Thank you all so much, everybody. And again, if I do not get to your comments right away on YouTube, guys, it's only because we're live here on the Bleacher Report app as well, so my apologies in advance. But to get into this ball game between David Pearson and John Gray, it starts early, and again, it is often, if you guys can pick up on the theme, we're hitting offense galore here. The Mets have themselves 22 hits for the first time in over 5 years. They've had at least a 20-piece. No, we didn't go to McDonald's tonight. We went to Arlington, Texas, and had batting practice against John Gray and the Texas Rangers, the reigning World Series champs. So nice to relax top to bottom with the comfortable route. 100% Ralph, you said it best, brother. We see Lindor with a single to lead off the ball game. Francisco Lindor, mind you, since leading off, has been the second most valuable player in all of the National League statistically. He has been second in WAR and I think second in WRC+. Francisco Lindor has been on an absolute tear on the consistency basis since being slotted in that role. Cameron, thank you for the $2 donation. Cameron says, bats are hotter than the weather in Texas, and that's saying a lot because it gets hot out there with that dry heat. Those Texans know it best. No less, Lindor with the leadoff single, JD Martinez with an opposite field single, and Pete Alonso, again, off of a heater yesterday, continues the offensive heroics with the Mets' first run of the day, an RBI opposite field single, Pico and Oppo. And if you guys know me on YouTube, you know that when I discuss Pete Alonso, I emphasize how good not only Pete is, but his ability to hit for opposite field when things are going right. The 2022 Pete Alonso was at his best because he was hitting opposite field. He was hitting well above his weight. He was looking good there in that 260, 265 range, hitting for opposite field and ripping bombs left and right. And I expect him to do a lot of that, not just in this series, but then when the Mets' next series is going to be in Chicago against the Cubs, Pete Alonso eats Wrigley Field up for breakfast. But tonight it starts in Arlington with an RBI opposite field single. Ralph with the $2 holla. Thank you so much for that, Ralph. Luke Riley, great moderator on YouTube. Happy to have you in here. We got Stanley in the live chat on YouTube saying, I'm a Mets fan. You love to see that. I got Tala and Jacob in the chat here on Bleacher Report. They're pumped up. They're feeling electric about their Metsies. Again, how can you not after a victory like this? We're up 1-0 through 1. In the bottom of the first, David Pearson gives up a single to Corey Seager as if that means anything. Then we get to the top of the second, Vientos with a single, McNeil with a single, Lindor with an RBI single, and again, it deflects off of Seager's glove, so the Mets are up 2-0 at this point, and Brandon Nimmo continues the hit spree, folks. Brandon Nimmo's batting like 500 over his past 18 play appearances or so. He's looking that good at the plate with those ABs. Nimmo with an opposite field RBI single makes it 3-0 Metropolitans. JD Martinez just misses a dead center home run, if not truly a double, but it was a fantastic catch at the 410 wall dead center by John Tavares. Not John Tavares, that's the New York Islanders. The other Tavares there. New York Islanders turned Toronto Maple Leafs. For my hockey fans, you know. I'm talking about, I know I just offended some Islanders fans. I don't like PTSD. I apologize for your former captain, but Brandon Nimmo again drives in that run. That was awesome. Then after the JDM flyout, which moves the runner to third base, Pete Alonso drives him in with his second RBI, and as a many innings, we're talking another RBI single for Polar Bear Pete, Big Meat Pete, Pistol Pete, however you want to call him. Again, the soon-to-be free agent and a huge trade deadline chip should the Mets consider that whatsoever. Pete Alonso is now turning up at the best time possible. And you want to know who turns up? It's the teddy bear in right field himself. I call him a teddy bear because you look me dead in the eye and tell me DJ Stewart doesn't look like a teddy bear, because he does. And the funny thing, DJ's first at-bat tonight was absolutely horrendous. He was behind on every fastball John Gray threw at him. 97 and he couldn't handle to save his life, even when it almost hit him, obviously. Second time around, he gets a meatball, he pulls one. DJ Stewart with a teddy bear bomb to right, a 3-run ding-dong, makes it 7-0 Metropolitans here over the reigning 2023 World Series champs. It's just a second inning, the Mets have 7 runs, and I don't know what to do with my hands. Doing my best Will Ferrell impression from Talladega Nights, if you know, you know. Scott Greenwald with the $5 donation in the chat says, JD has to be put on the side batting coach. After carrying us for a week, suddenly Pete and the crew get off. Said it 3 days ago, Pete gets off, watch out. Pete is going to ball out, especially, I think, in this break of a series in Texas, in Chicago, not at home with the pressure at Citi Field. We saw Alonso finally start to break out yesterday or so. Expect that to continue here on the road when the Mets are getting it at a very important time. Almost at 100 likes here in the live show on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for that. Continue smashing those buttons. Happy to have you all in here as always, folks, as we're breaking down the latest in Mets land. The Mets absolutely destroy the Texas Rangers tonight by a final score of 14-2. This comes no mere than 24 hours ago when the Mets scored 11 runs in their series sweep and finale, having won their 5th consecutive game, and that was against the San Diego Padres. Awesome stuff. The Mets go from yesterday sweeping the Padres, something they haven't done in almost 20 years, 18 to be exact, to now tonight having at least 20 hits for the first time in over 5 years. The Mets had at least 5 batters tonight with 3 or more hits. I feel like I haven't seen that at any point in my Metropolitan career as a fan. Have you? If so, then I'm definitely envious, to say the least. But to get back into this one now, folks, the Mets are up 7-0 that we see here through 2. And again, that started with the Vientos single, McNeil, Lindor, and on from there. In the bottom of the second, Duran gets a single. That's all she wrote there for the Rangers. In the bottom of the third, Marcus Semien with the walk, Robbie Grossman with a 2-run home run. It cuts the deficit to 5. So naturally, you're like, okay, the Mets got to make sure that they don't lose this game. It's very early. There's a lot of playing time left. Let's get those runs back. And you want to know what the Mets say in response? They say, absolutely. Let's get those runs back. And I'm sure Grimace, of course, the purple candy corn looking Mo, you know what that he is. He was looking great. He was excited. This is now a 6-0 run in the Grimace era for everyone that's been picking up on the memes. In case you've been living under a rock or you're not a Mets fan, Grimace, of course, the infamous character from McDonald's, in which had everyone, frothing out their mouths for a shake last year, in which TikTok trends turn it upside down. If you know, you know. This Grimace throws out the first pitch for the Mets, and they haven't lost a game since. He is now our new phenomenon. He is our Donnie Stevenson. He is our new rally pimp that we loved and saw earlier in the season. I'm just loving the Grimace era and everything that it entails with the Mets right now. But they respond right away on the offensive end, and the response is as follows. In the top of the 4th, we see Francisco Lindor with yet another hit. Lindor went 4 for 4 tonight on the hit spree, so pretty decent if you ask me. For my star shortstop, I will gladly take that. Brandon Nimmo rips a 2-run ding-dong to increase the Mets lead. It's a 9-2 ball game, a 9-2 deficit for the Rangers, and a lead for the Metropolitans. Pete Alonso rips another single. The Mets don't score from there, but it's 9-2 as we head to the 5th inning. And in the 5th inning, inning. Francisco Alvarez with the single, McNeil with a walk, Lindor with an RBI double, so the hits parade continues for the Metsies here. Oh yeah, if I didn't mention this already, John Gray was pulled from tonight's game for the Rangers without even recording an out there in the 4th inning, I'm pretty sure. Not a great night to be John Gray or a Texas Rangers fan, but a phenomenal night if you're a New York Metropolitan fan like myself and the many watching here live on YouTube and on the Bleacher Report app there in the Mets section. But we see the Mets are up 9-2 at that point. Lindor makes it 10-2, and Nimmo makes it 11-2 with an RBI single. Again, it's a hits parade left and right. You love to see it. Then in the top of the 8th, we see the Mets, because nothing else transpires for the rest of the 6th and the 7th. In the 8th, we see Mr. Tyrone Taylor get on via hit by pitch. Vientos with a double, so Marky V with 3 hits himself today, yet no RBIs. Alvarez with his first of 2 RBIs on the day that we would see there. Pardon me, everybody. I actually made a mistake. Let's hop back to the 6th inning for a second, because in the top of the 6th, DJ Teddy Bear Stewart got his 2nd hit of the day. Then we see Vientos on with an opposite field single, so you're like, okay, we're cooking. More offenses coming in. Francisco Alvarez, El Troll at the backstop. The Mets are looking phenomenal with this man back from injury. Color me surprised, because I'm surely not. Alvy rips an RBI single to increase the Metropolitan lead 12-2. Then he makes it 13-2 or 13-2 there in the 8th inning with his 2nd RBI single. Jeff McNeil then drives in a run on a fielder's choice or a force out, and then that does it for the ball game, folks. The Texas Rangers had little to show, and the Mets had everything to show. We have seen some awesome turnout by the Mets as of late, everybody, but I don't think we've seen a game quite like this for the Mets this season, where they've literally had everything rolling imaginable against a solid. Look, the Texas Rangers have been going through a lot. I'm well aware of that. I understand that this is a Texas Rangers team that is far from being necessarily the World Series team that they were just a year ago. But having said that, even while, yes, the Raiders have been batting practice many times this season, it does not change the fact that the Mets have been needing to put the pedal to the metal with this one like no tomorrow. They have been dying for a win streak of this caliber, let alone 6 games. The Mets were 12 games or so out of a wild card, not a wild card spot, but the Mets were 11 to 12 games below 500. It feels like yesterday. Now we talk just 3 games below 500. What are we, just a game back of the wild card right now? I understand it's early. I understand you got a whole 162 that you got to play. But what I will tell you is that the Mets right now are right in the thick of it. They are 1 game out of a wild card spot. Again, who had on their bingo card the Mets would be 1 game out of a wild card spot on June 17th if we're talking a month ago? Very few of you did. And the few that did are the very internal optimistic Mets fans that were buying into nothing on the lack of production to the piss poor start of this season, which was the case here for the Metsies. But I want to know from all you guys right now, before we deep dive more about this ball game, because I got plenty of numbers to get into. We're going to get on the pitching. We're going to get in on the offense. We're going to get in on everything in between. To everyone watching live on YouTube, and of course people in Bleacher Report as well, let me know, guys, what is your biggest takeaway from this Metropolitan victory? Again, I cannot get over. I'm going to pull up the stats, Peen. Do not worry, we're going to do that shortly. I simply cannot get over how dominant of a victory this was by the Mets, and how simple and comfortable. Look, this Mets team, again, was doing everything they need to do, but they just looked so comfortable the entire time. They never stopped swinging. Literally, they looked like a batting practice machine. You guys know that robot? You guys know that robot where when the pitchers are thrown, the bat is connected to the robot? It's like a meme. It just goes boom, 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 boom. That is exactly how this entire game felt. I'm at an 8 on the confidence meter, Wardy. Steve's confidence is rising through the effing roof, and you can't blame the guy after a victory like this one. Again, the Mets now are in a position that is light years different than what we were talking 2 weeks ago. Even the Miami Marlins series, guys, we were so fed up with that. I was beyond happy that we beat up on Braxton Garrett because it's Braxton Garrett, but I want to see the Mets do more, right? I want to see the Mets beat up on some competent pitching. Then they beat up on Dylan Cease, so I was like, okay, I like that. That's encouraging. Then they beat up on John Gray today. Am I saying all these guys are Cy Young? No, of course not. But what I am saying is that they're finally starting to beat up on some competent pitching. They're finally deciding to wake up on the offensive end before it's the 7th inning. The Mets have now been able to do this in unison on a consistent basis for 6 straight games. They have won 12 of their past 15 games, 12-3 stretch right now. The Mets are on pace again to be just a little below 500. All it takes is a couple more dubs, and the Mets are not only the thick of it on the wild card race, but they're fully in the thick of it on trying to solidify themselves and have a new season than what they currently have. This is another thing that I told a lot of you guys in our not pregame show, but our stream earlier today of why the Mets playoff odds are alive, and this reaffirms exactly that. They're taking it day by day. And there's something that I really want to give a huge shout out once more to JD Martinez, Francisco Lindor, and everyone in between. The most vocal leaders that we saw in that team meeting for the Mets after during the Jorge Lopez situation was Lindor and JDM among others. They have not only been the most impactful bats for the Mets since then, but they have been such leaders both on and off the field. I have questioned the Mets leadership. I have questioned their identity. I've questioned so much about them. While I think they're still far from being a perfect team, a perfect organization, obviously, no one's perfect, they're finally finding a groove where I can feel happy to say, I'm going to watch the Mets tonight. I can say, wow, Lindor is really living up and backing up his words. JD Martinez is a true hitting savant, a World Series champion, and he's doing exactly what you signed him to, especially on that $4.5 million deal with those deferred payments. Again, you cannot go wrong if you're the Mets right now with their construction, and even add insult to injury in the best way possible. We just complained the past 24 hours on the Mets lineup for the most part, yesterday's game and today's game. Today we saw McNeil over Iglesias. Today we saw no Marte starting. We saw no Bader starting. DJ Stewart, who did not look great in his last time out there, gets a start today, and he's an X factor. So again, every time that I find myself questioning the decision-making by Carlos Mendoza on the offensive front, it clearly it comes backfiring in my face right before I very know it, mainly because the Mets have been doing the right decisions. Even though that I don't love the idea of Jeff McNeil playing over Iglesias as much as he's been lately. It's been over a week. But McNeil, however, has not been a negative factor into the Mets' success lately. So that's why he's going to continue to get playing time. I would still like Iglesias there, but I understand what they're doing. Mendoza is now riding the hot hand, even if not everyone is hot at the moment, just because of how deep this is. And to fans out there that doubted, that thought the Mets had no chance of any life, of any semblance on the offensive end this season, I'm here to give you a bridge to sell. And the reason why is because we've all known that Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, JD Martinez, Starling Marte, even Harrison Bader, Tyrone Taylor's to a degree, DJ Stewart, Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, and these guys just play the way they're supposed to play. I'm not saying they're supposed to play like this. Tonight's game was awesome, but it's an anomaly of a win. Do not expect the Mets to have sustained 14-run games consistently. If they do, I will not only be jaw-dropped where it's all the way on the floor, but I will ask you to pick it up while you see it happen. In all seriousness, though, if the Mets just perform to the caliber in which they know they can, with everyone really firing on all full cylinders, finally getting on a heater, you know how losing's contagious? So is hitting, and so is winning. And we're in that contagious part where the Mets are sick, but they're sick because they're absolutely hitting like absolutely nuts lately. They are doing everything in their power to secure the victories. They're doing everything in their power to hit early and often. They don't care if it's 1 out, 2 out, or nothing. They are producing offense. And then on the pitching end, can we give a tip of the cap? Can we all please appreciate David Peterson and what I thought was a very sharp outing from him today? Let's just take a moment to appreciate that, guys. And if you're watching this on the Bleacher Report app, thank you so much. After we break down a little bit on the pitching and the offense, I will shut things off on the live here on Bleacher Report, but we will continue to be live here on YouTube as we typically are. But everybody, definitely want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you rate this victory over recent Mets victories that we've seen this season or over the past couple of years? This is definitely up there in regards to just pure dominance and looking comfortable from start to absolute finish. But I want to pivot now for a brief couple seconds here to talk about the pitching, because that definitely stood out today when, again, the offense was what we were all here for, but the pitching is what helped keep us here and helped keep us in this victory. And as we take a look here on the pitching, folks, it is as follows. David Peterson, 6 innings of 4 hits, 2 earned run, 3 walks, 6 strikeout ball. Adam Ottavino with 2 shutties. Sign me up, Adam. Who had that on their bingo card? I didn't. Drew Smith with a scoreless 9th. We will take the production there, everybody. But now as we take a look at the pitching, shout out to my great friend Isaac Rothman. For those that don't know, Isaac does a fantastic job on providing me nightly pitching breakdowns on what transpired with the Mets versus who they're opposing. And a lot of these numbers come from Baseball Savant on him on other sites, but really helps give me further information beyond the eye test from what we saw with a guy like David Peterson. And for the Mets tonight in DP, it was as follows. And shout out Isaac Groffman. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at ISAACGROFFMAN. Shout out to my boy Isaac. He knows who he is. Four-seam fastball for David Peterson was 42% of the time. Topped out 95 and sat 94. Slider 20% of the time, 85 miles per hour. Sinker 18% of the time at 91 miles per hour. Sat and 94s were topped out. Changeup 14% of the arsenal, 85 miles per hour. Curveball 6% of the arsenal and 79 miles per hour. And funny enough, despite his velo being down across the board tonight, Peterson had his success with his swing and miss stuff like no tomorrow. He had a season high 11 whiffs and 6 Ks. And you want to know what stood out right away for me about David Peterson? If you guys saw with the eye test especially, and Baseball Savant will provide these numbers too, he was working that fastball up to work those sliders down in it, especially that back foot slider. Very interesting. And I know my man James Shiano on Twitter, talked about this earlier. So shout out to you, James, if you see this at all. A great Mets fan as well. But it's kind of nuts how David Peterson back in the 2022 season for the Mets was definitely more of a swing and miss southpaw, trying to be a dominant, overwhelming southpaw with, of course, that wipeout slider when it is right, but also that fastball to set it up. But when it wasn't set up, that was a meatball right down the pipe or a slider hanging, and you had problems and you were sustained to the lawn ball. Now David Peterson enters this season after working the Mets pitching lab in Port St. Lucie and kind of redefines himself a little bit as more of a ground ball pitcher. But oddly enough, what we saw tonight was more of 2022 than anything else. So I'm really curious if Peterson is going to kind of mix up the looks based on the specific matchup and what he thinks is going to work, right? I think that has to be the case here. David, great memory, friend of mine. Yes, born as morning indeed. Hope you're doing well. Happy to have you in the show. But we saw again David Peterson have that slider working, and again 6 Ks total for David Peterson tonight. He was also using that four seam as his primary pitch. He was leaning toward becoming a sinker slider ground ball pitcher in recent starts. This seemed like a good idea since the sinker slider are his best pitches, and maybe that is something he defers and goes back to. But for the time being, right now, David Peterson worked by being more the David of old, funny enough. He looked more like his 2022 self. Isaac, I didn't even see that until now in your notes, so that's hilarious. Consistently locating that fastball up in the zone for those back foot sliders, as I mentioned. Biggest difference in this start was an uptick in movement on all Peterson's off-speed pitches that we noticed. His slider had 2 more inches of drop on it, and it had a 33% whiff rate. A whiff percentage, rather. It would be nice to see what kind of pitcher Peterson actually is. A strikeout 1 or a ground ball 1. 7.5 out of 10 on the rating. The fact that he won 6 of 2 earned run ball, I'm going 7.5 out of 10 here for my start for David Peterson. I definitely want to know where you guys stand if you're watching this live here on YouTube. If you're watching, the comments down below on replay, let me know. And for my live viewers, of course, here in the Bleacher Report app, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you stand with David Peterson's start tonight? I got to give him a 7.5 out of 10 too. I've been very stubborn on starters that haven't went beyond 5 innings because that's been the majority of the Mets rotation this season. So when guys, 1, go 6 innings, 2, only allow 2 or less earned run ball, and 3, you have 6 strikeouts, I am going to take that to the bank every single day of the week. I'm sure many of you will as well. So I'm going with, yes, 7.5 out of 10 as my rating on that one. David Peterson, very effective with what we saw him with the Arsenal tonight. And then to wrap this up on the discussion of just the pure numbers right now, again, David Peterson did what he needed to do. We appreciate that. Adam Ottavino, huge bounce back outing for him. Drew Smith got the job done too, but it's the hitting. Again, I will do my best Oprah Winfrey impression once more. You get a hit, you get a hit, you get a hit, you get a run, you get a run, you get a run, you get a run scored, you get a run scored, you get an RBI, you get an RBI, you get a home run, you get a home run. That is how this game felt. Don't mind Iglesias there. Again, you saw some defensive replacements after the Mets were really blowing them out early, but I will relay all the offensive numbers for you all as follows here. Wardy, if you were the Mets, who would you trade for before the deadline? If I was the Mets and I was acquiring anybody, I would love Jesus Luzardo. I think his value might be a little down right now because he hasn't been as consistent this season. I would love a Jesus Luzardo. I would love a Eric Fetty. I want guys that can go 6 innings in this rotation. Those are guys that stick out right away. Then, of course, there are more pipe dream picks. Luzardo is probably more. I think Eric Fetty is a very realistic possibility for the Mets should they be both buyers and sellers by the deadline. A 1-2 year deal that Fetty's on right now. Yes, pitching will be very desirable by the deadline, but it does mean that the Mets can't pony up the proper assets to make it happen for short-term immediate help should they wish. But Stay on the topic here of what we were discussing, folks. Let's get into the offense, because the offense was early, and it was often. If I haven't said that how many times already, that once again held true. We saw Francisco Lindor, 4-for-4 piece. We love that, baby. He got some Mickey D's with 3 runs scored, a double, and 2 RBIs. Lindor's up to a 242 average and a 745 OPS. For a man that didn't know what hitting from the left side of the plate was for over a month this season, that's pretty impressive. Brandon Nimmo, 3-for-4 with 2 runs scored, the home run, and 4 RBIs. Brandon has basically been hitting 500 over his past couple games, and he is looking beyond locked in that 2-hole, which is what the Mets are hoping for, and it has in fact happened. 240 average, 756 OPS on the season. Jose Iglesias 0-for-2 after he came in for Lindor, 400 average, 924 OPS on the season. Harrison Bader came in for Nimmo after Nimmo had a fantastic day. Bader won 1-for-2 with a double, 274 average, 712 OPS. Man, do I love some Harrison Bader. And yes, Nimmo did get a home run, if I didn't mention that already. Nimmo was absolutely balling out. The graphic you're currently seeing is showing the guys that finished the game and not the guys that started the game. That's why I'm relaying all the numbers to you right now, in case you guys didn't notice that yet. We saw JD Martinez then, 1-for-4. Funny enough, out of all the 14 runs, JDM doesn't even have an RBI to show for it. 292 average and 872 OPS for JD, Mr. Julio. Luis Torrens came in a DH for a couple at-bats, and he had a hit as well. 333 average, over 1,000 OPS for my backup catcher. And speaking of backup catchers, Mets legend Tomas Nido, a man who was in the organization for 12 years, no more. He was officially released by the Mets today, so we wish Nido the absolute best in his future endeavors at the MLB level. Pete Alonso, 3-for-5. Big day for Pete, not a home run, but did have a couple RBI singles and a run scored, including a walk, 239 average, 781 OPS, and I guarantee you Pete Alonso, by the time this road trip is done, is past 800 OPS and then some a little bit. I'm very confident about Alonso this road trip. I think the slugging is going to showcase itself before our very eyes. DJ Stewart, 2-for-6. Was the lone Mets batter to get at least 6 at-bats tonight. 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs thanks to the teddy bear shot to right. A 184 average and a 689 OPS on the season for DJ, who struggled mightily up until today in his limited role over the past couple weeks. Tyrone Taylor 0-for as well with a pair of strikeouts and a run scored. 241 average and 635 OPS on the season for Tyrone. Marky Vientos, 3-for-5 with 2 runs scored, a double. No RBIs for Vientos, who now sits above 300 at 302 on the average and 85 on the OPS. Francisco Alvarez, 3-for-5 with a run scored and 2 RBIs, a 243 average and a 620 OPS. Jeff McHitz was 1-for-4 tonight with 2 runs scored and a double, 223 average and a 601 OPS on the season for Mr. Jeff McNeil. That is what you got from the Metsies on the offensive end and the pitching end. They came out to play, and they look again for yet now a 3rd consecutive series victory tomorrow with my man Luis Severino on the bump, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am mistaken, that just means I'm mistaken. Yep, Sevy on the bump versus Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen pitched great his last start. Sevy's been looking absolutely sharp. I'm very excited for the matchup. 2 guys who got 1-year deals this offseason, 2 of which who have been absolutely playing above expectations, so you'll love to see that. And then we will go from there. Give me 1 second, folks. And I'm just getting some updates here. Give me 1 second. So not until next... Okay, thank you. My apologies, everybody. Getting updates... from my girlfriend, because my girlfriend is going to have our baby any day now. So I'm just making sure that she's good and everything is fine on that front. Awesome. And thank you guys all for the congratulations and the stuff in advance. Really does mean a lot. Yep, just got text. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, guys. Now, before I continue the live show, because I got a lot to talk about, are you seriously still calling him McHits? I'm trying to be nice, Steve. I'm trying to be nice. Dave in the chat says someone should buy Wardy a purple Grimace shake. We got to bring the Grimace shake back. That's what I think. I think it was premature that it was released a year or so ago. We need the Grimace shake back. Until the Mets lose a game again, we need the Grimace shake back, and that's just how it is. So, McDonald's, if you're listening, Mickey D's, get on it right away, folks. I got plenty more that I want to say in this one, everybody, but I don't want to be too long-winded to my Bleacher Report live viewers, folks. So that's going to wrap up the show to everyone that's watching this here in the Bleacher Report app. Thank you all so much for that. It really does mean a lot. I will also cut things off for people on replay at this point as well. So let me me know again your biggest takeaways in the comments down below to a Metsian victory like no other as they absolutely decimate, yes, the Texas Rangers by a final score of 14-2. For my live viewers on YouTube, stay here. We're going to continue to be live, and I will do the farm report with you guys shortly. That will not be made available for my replay viewers. I apologize, but going forward, I will do my best to have it there. But everyone watching here in the Bleacher Report app, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed our inaugural WardyNYM Mets postgame segment here in the BR app. We'll be back live soon. We got a lot of segments coming in the month of July especially, so be on the lookout. Everyone watching live on YouTube, stay tuned. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to get to more on the content here shortly. But as always, let's go Mets, baby, and we'll talk again real soon. Peace out.